Three men sat in plastic chairs outside Dr. Patterson's office, each holding a manila envelope. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as they avoided eye contact, their faces pale under the harsh hospital lighting. "What do you mean it's not treatable?" Dean's voice cracked as he gripped his test results. Malik stared at his paperwork, hands trembling. "This can't be right. I feel fine." The third man, Jake, just sat there in stunned silence. From around the corner, Michael Harlan watched through the reflection in a vending machine's glass. His face remained expressionless as he observed the three men who had destroyed his marriage squirm in their seats. He adjusted his sanitation department uniform and walked away without a sound. The plan was working perfectly. 6 months earlier, Michael's alarm went off at 5:30 a.m., same as every morning for the past 8 years. He rolled over to find Celeste's side of the bed empty and cold. Through the bathroom door, he could hear her on the phone, her voice low and secretive. I know. Just give me another week and I'll figure something out." He pretended to be asleep when she emerged, watching through barely opened eyes as she applied her makeup with practiced precision. Celeste had always been beautiful, the kind of woman who turned heads in grocery stores and made other wives nervous at parties. But lately, something had changed. The distance between them had grown from a crack to a chasm. "I'm heading to the studio early today," she said, not looking at him. "Another brand partnership meeting." Michael nodded, knowing she couldn't see him. Celeste had transformed herself from a pharmaceutical sales rep into a lifestyle influencer over the past 2 years. Her Instagram account at Celeste Shines had grown to over 200K followers. She posted about wellness, fitness, and living your best life, while their own life together withered. After she left, Michael sat on the edge of their bed and stared at the framed photo on his nightstand. Their wedding day, 5 years ago. They looked so happy then, so hopeful. His phone buzzed, a text from his supervisor. "Route 47 needs coverage. Johnson called in sick." Michael sighed and got ready for work. He'd been with the city's sanitation department for 12 years, working his way up from a general laborer to a route supervisor. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid well and had excellent benefits. More importantly, it gave him something most people didn't have: invisibility. People rarely noticed the garbage man. They saw the truck, maybe, but never the person inside. It was a perfect cover for someone who liked to observe the world without being observed himself. That evening, Michael came home to find Celeste in the kitchen, practically glowing with excitement. "Babe, you won't believe what happened today." She spun around, her blonde hair catching the light. "I got offered a collaboration with Zenith Wellness. It's a major supplement company. This could be huge for my brand." Michael managed to smile. "That's great, honey. I'm proud of you." But as he watched her celebrate, something nagged at him. The timing seemed odd. Just this morning, she'd been stressed about money, and now she was talking about a major deal. "How did they find you?" he asked. "Through Dean, actually. He knows the owner and put in a good word for me." Dean. Michael's jaw tightened slightly. Dean Morrison was a personal trainer who ran a high-end gym downtown. He was also everything Michael wasn't: tall, muscular, charismatic, and popular with women. Celeste had started training with him 6 months ago, claiming she needed to level up her fitness game for her social media content. "That was nice of him," Michael said carefully. "He's been such a great friend, really supportive of my goals." Celeste's smile faltered slightly. "Maybe you should start working out too." Dean says exercise is crucial for mental health. The suggestion stung, but Michael kept his expression neutral. "I'll think about it." That night, as Celeste slept beside him, Michael stared at the ceiling and wondered when his wife had stopped seeing him as a partner and started seeing him as a problem to be fixed. The next morning, Celeste rushed out for another early meeting, leaving her iPad charging on the kitchen counter. Michael was about to head to work when he noticed the screen had cracked, probably from being dropped. He picked it up, intending to take it to the repair shop during his lunch break. As he examined the damage, the screen lit up with a notification, a text message from D. "Can't wait for tonight. Wear what we talked about. Make sure he's asleep." Michael's blood ran cold. He tapped the message and it opened to a conversation thread that made his stomach turn. Celeste. "I feel terrible about this." D. "You said yourself he's not meeting your needs. Life's too short to be miserable." Celeste. "I know, but if he finds out..." D. "He won't. Guys like him never do. They're too comfortable being invisible." Michael's hands shook as he scrolled through more messages. Months of conversations. plans, intimate details about their private life that Celeste had shared with this man. And then he saw something that made his blood freeze. D. Bring Jake and Malik tonight. You said you wanted to try something new. Celeste. Are you sure? 3 at once seems. D. Trust me, you deserve to feel alive again. Besides, they're discreet. Jake's married too. Michael set the iPad down carefully, his mind racing. Jake. He knew Jake. They'd been friends since college. Jake Wright worked in marketing and lived in the same neighborhood. They'd had barbecues together, watched football games, celebrated birthdays. And Malik. Malik Hassan was a real estate broker who'd helped them buy their house 3 years ago. He'd stayed in touch, always texting about new investment opportunities. All 3 of them, in his house, with his wife. Michael stood in his kitchen, surrounded by the life he'd built, and felt it crumbling around him. But instead of anger, he felt something else, something cold and calculating. He took out his phone and called in sick to work. Then he drove to an electronics store and bought the smallest, most advanced recording devices he could find. That night, Michael pretended to take a sleeping pill and went to bed early. Around 10 p.m., he heard the front door open, followed by hushed voices in the living room. Is he out? That was Dean's voice. Dead to the world, Celeste replied. He took 2 pills tonight, said he had a headache. Michael's heart pounded as he listened to footsteps on the stairs. He'd placed a tiny recording device in the bedroom and another in the master bathroom. Through the thin walls, he could hear everything. What followed was the most humiliating experience of his life. Not just the physical betrayal, but the way they talked about him. The jokes, the dismissive comments. The way his wife described their intimate life with casual cruelty. He's like furniture, Celeste said at one point. Always there, always silent, never really part of what's happening. The other men laughed. At least furniture is useful, Dean replied. Michael lay there, listening to his marriage die, and made a decision. He wasn't going to confront them. He wasn't going to cry or plead or try to win his wife back. He was going to do something much worse. He was going to make them pay. Over the next 2 weeks, Michael became a ghost in his own home. He went to work, came home, made polite conversation, and waited. Celeste seemed relieved by his apparent obliviousness, becoming more relaxed and affectionate, which only made his resolve stronger. During this time, Michael began setting up his real life, the life no one knew about. 12 years ago, when he'd first started working for the city, Michael had used his small savings to buy Bitcoin when it was trading for under $100. He'd continued buying small amounts every month, treating it like a retirement fund. When the price exploded in 2017, he'd sold some holdings and diversified into other cryptocurrencies and tech stocks. He'd never told Celeste about his investments. In her mind, he was just a garbage man who would never amount to anything more. She had no idea that her husband had a net worth of over $4.2 million. Michael had hidden his wealth carefully, using multiple wallets and investment accounts. He'd even set up a small property management LLC through a lawyer in another state. On paper, he was exactly what he appeared to be, a city worker with a modest 401k and a mortgage. But in reality, he was something else entirely. One evening, Michael packed a single suitcase while Celeste was at what she called a networking event. He moved his essentials to a furnished apartment across town that he'd rented under his LLC. Then he sat down at his laptop and began phase 1 of his plan. Within an hour, he'd created a new identity, Dr. Michael Harrison, a wellness consultant specializing in men's health. He built a professional website, complete with fake credentials and testimonials. He registered for a business license and set up a bank account under his new company name. The next day, he called in sick to work and drove to the medical district. He found Dr. Tamara Lee in a small clinic near the university. She was a former Army medic who'd served in Afghanistan at the same time as Michael. They'd kept in touch over the years, and she owed him a favor from when he'd helped her get established in the city. "I need your help with something," Michael said, sitting across from her in her office. Tamara studied his face. "What kind of help?" "The legal kind. I want to offer free STD screenings to men in the community, a wellness initiative." She raised an eyebrow. "That's actually not a bad idea. The rates are pretty high among young professionals." "But why come to me?" "Because I need someone I trust to handle the medical side, and because I know you understand the importance of discretion." Tamara leaned back in her chair. "What's this really about, Michael?" "Let's just say I'm passionate about men's health education." She studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Okay, but we do this by the book. Real tests, real results, proper medical protocols. I wouldn't have it any other way. Michael returned home that evening to find Celeste in the living room, looking confused and slightly panicked. Where were you? I tried calling you all day. Phone died. I went to look at apartments. The color drained from her face. Apartments? What do you mean? Michael set down his keys and looked at her with sad eyes. I think we need some space, Celeste. I can feel you pulling away from me, and I don't want to force you to stay in a marriage that's making you unhappy. Michael, I found a place. Small, but it's enough for now. I'll be out by the weekend. Celeste stared at him, clearly thrown off balance. This wasn't the reaction she'd expected. Don't you want to talk about this? Fight for us? I'm tired of fighting for someone who doesn't want to be fought for. Michael's voice was calm, resigned. I love you, Celeste. But I can't keep pretending everything is okay when it's not. She opened her mouth to speak, then closed it. After a moment, she nodded. Maybe that's for the best, just temporarily, until we figure things out. Of course. Temporarily. That night, Michael left a note on the kitchen counter. I'm sorry I wasn't what you wanted. I'll be better. He picked up his suitcase and walked out of the house they'd shared for 3 years. As he got into his car, he allowed himself one small smile. Phase 1 was complete. From his new apartment, Michael launched his campaign. He created social media accounts for his fake wellness company and began promoting a male wellness challenge targeted at young professionals. The campaign promised free health screenings, fitness assessments, and nutritional counseling. The hook was irresistible. Real men take care of their health. No excuses, no delays, no cost. Within days, he had dozens of signups, including Dean, Jake, and Malik. Dean was the easiest to bait. Michael's targeted ads hit all his triggers: fitness, masculinity, social status. Jake signed up after seeing Dean's enthusiastic post about it. Malik joined when Michael personally reached out, claiming he'd gotten his contact information from a mutual friend. The screening event was held at a rented space downtown, designed to look like a high-end medical facility. Tamara handled the actual medical side, while Michael, wearing a fake beard and glasses, played the role of Dr. Harrison. Gentlemen, he addressed the group of about 30 men, thank you for prioritizing your health. Today's screening will include blood work, STD testing, and a comprehensive wellness assessment. Everything is confidential, and results will be available within 48 hours. Dean, Jake, and Malik sat in the front row, joking and laughing with each other. They had no idea they were looking at the husband they'd betrayed. The tests were legitimate. Michael wanted real results, not fake ones. That was crucial for what came next. 3 days later, all 3 men received their results via email. Everything was normal: clean blood work, no STDs, excellent overall health. But Michael had prepared for this. Phase 2 began with a follow-up email from Dr. Harrison. Congratulations on your excellent test results. However, I wanted to reach out regarding some concerning trends we've observed in our data. While your individual results are normal, the testing revealed some unusual patterns that warrant further discussion. Please call our office to schedule a consultation. The email was intentionally vague and slightly alarming. Michael knew that ambiguous medical information would trigger anxiety in most people. Dean called first within an hour. Dr. Harrison, this is Dean Morrison. I got your email about concerning patterns? Michael lowered his voice and spoke with clinical precision. Mr. Morrison, thank you for calling. I want to stress that your individual results are within normal ranges. However, our analysis has identified some statistical anomalies in the cohort that participated in the screening. There's a possibility, and I emphasize possibility, that some participants may have been exposed to a rare variant that doesn't show up in standard testing. A variant? What kind of variant? I can't go into specifics over the phone, but I'd like you to come in for a brief consultation. We're offering additional testing at no cost to ensure we haven't missed anything. Dean's voice was tight with worry. How serious is this? As I said, your results are normal, but given the potential implications, I'd rather be overcautious. Can you come in tomorrow? Dean scheduled an appointment immediately. Jake and Malik received similar calls. All 3 men arrived at the fake clinic the next day, visibly anxious. Michael, still in his Dr. Harrison disguise, met with each of them individually. He didn't lie about their health. That would have been too risky. Instead, he planted seeds of doubt and anxiety. The additional tests will take a few days to process, he told each man. In the meantime, I'd recommend avoiding intimate contact until we have definitive results, just as a precaution. While the three men waited for their additional results, Michael began phase 3. He'd been documenting everything, their conversations, their movements, their social media activity. He knew their schedules, their habits, their weaknesses. Dean was the first to crack. Unable to handle the uncertainty, he called his ex-girlfriend, Jessica, a nurse at the local hospital, and asked her to look up information about rare STD variants. When she couldn't find anything matching his description, he became increasingly paranoid. His behavior at the gym became erratic. He snapped at clients, seemed distracted during training sessions, and started avoiding physical contact. Word began to spread that something was wrong with Dean Morrison. Jake was handling the stress even worse. He became convinced that he'd contracted something serious and began exhibiting classic symptoms of health anxiety: insomnia, loss of appetite, constant internet searching for information about rare diseases. His wife Sarah noticed the change immediately. When she pressed him about what was wrong, Jake made the fatal mistake of mentioning the concerning patterns from his health screening. "What kind of patterns?" Sarah demanded. The doctor couldn't say exactly, but there might be some kind of rare variant that doesn't show up in normal tests. Sarah's face went pale. "Are you saying you might have given me something?" No. My results were normal. This is just a precaution." But the damage was done. Sarah insisted on getting tested herself, and when her results came back completely normal, she began asking more questions. Who was this doctor? What clinic had he gone to? Why had he needed additional testing? The more Jake tried to explain, the more suspicious Sarah became. Their marriage, already strained by his infidelity, began to crumble. Malik took a different approach. Instead of worrying about his health, he became angry. He started making calls, trying to track down Dr. Harrison and demand answers. But the clinic number went to voicemail, and the address led to a temporary office space that had already been vacated. As the days passed with no additional results, all three men began to suspect they'd been scammed. But by whom and why? 2 weeks after the fake follow-up, Michael sent a final email to all three men. After extensive analysis, I'm pleased to inform you that the concerning patterns we identified appear to have been a result of contaminated testing equipment. Your original results stand, and no additional testing is necessary. We apologize for any inconvenience this may have caused. The relief was immediate but short-lived. Within hours, all three men realized they'd been played. But they had no idea by whom or why. Dean confronted Jake and Malik at the gym that evening. "This is bullcrap," Dean said, his face red with anger. "Someone deliberately messed with us." "But who?" Jake looked haggard, his marriage hanging by a thread after 2 weeks of Sarah's suspicious questioning. "And why would someone do this?" "I don't know," Malik said, "but I'm going to find out. I've got connections in the medical field. I'll track down this Dr. Harrison character." "Good luck," Dean muttered. "I already tried. The guy's a ghost." They agreed to meet the next day and compare notes. They had no idea they were being watched. Michael knew it was time for the next phase. He'd successfully planted doubt and anxiety in their minds, damaged their relationships, and made them question their own judgment. Now he needed to reveal himself. He waited until the three men were together at Dean's gym, then walked in wearing his normal clothes: jeans, a work shirt, and a baseball cap. He looked like any other customer. "Excuse me," he said to Dean. "I heard you guys offer personal training?" Dean looked up from his conversation with Jake and Malik. "Yeah, we do." "You looking to get started?" "Something like that." Michael pulled off his cap and looked directly at Dean. "I think we need to talk." The recognition was instant. Dean's face went white. "Holy shit," Jake whispered. Malik just stared, his mouth open. Michael smiled coldly. "Surprised to see me?" "Michael, how did you—" Dean stammered. "Find out about your little wellness screening? Or about what you've been doing in my house?" The silence stretched between them. Other gym members were starting to notice the tension. "Look," Dean said, trying to regain his composure. "Maybe we should talk about this somewhere private." "Why? Are you embarrassed? Ashamed?" Michael's voice was calm, but his eyes were ice cold. "That's interesting. You didn't seem embarrassed when you were in my bedroom." Jake stepped forward. "Michael, let me explain." "Explain what?" "How you've been my friend for 15 years while sleeping with my wife?" How you laughed about me being furniture? How you thought I was too stupid to figure it out? It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. Michael turned to Malik. And you? You helped us buy our house. You came to our Christmas party. You ate my food and drank my beer while planning to betray me. Malik found his voice. Look, Michael, I'm sorry about what happened, but Celeste came to us. She said you two were having problems. So you decided to help solve them by having a threesome with my wife? The words hung in the air like a bomb. Several gym members had stopped working out to watch the confrontation. Dean tried to take control. Okay, this is getting out of hand. Michael, I understand you're upset, but we need to handle this like adults. Michael laughed. Adults? You want to handle this like adults? Here's what adults do, Dean. They get divorced. They split assets. They move on with their lives. That's probably for the best, Jake said quietly. Oh, it is. See, what you three don't understand is that I'm not here to fight you. I'm not here to win my wife back. I'm here to let you know that your little secret isn't a secret anymore. What do you mean? Malik asked. Michael pulled out his phone and showed them a video clip. It was Dean, clearly agitated, calling his ex-girlfriend and ranting about rare STD variants and mysterious doctors. This is from 2 weeks ago, Michael said. Jessica was worried about you, so she recorded the call. She's been showing it to people at the hospital. They think you're having some kind of mental breakdown. Dean's face went from white to red. You son of a bitch! You were Dr. Harrison. Very good. It only took you 2 weeks to figure out. You put us through nightmare, Jake said. My wife almost left me because of your sick game. My sick game? Michael's voice remained calm, but something dangerous flickered in his eyes. You drilled my wife in my house and I'm the one playing sick games? That's different, is it? Because from where I'm standing, you three are the ones who played games. You just played them with someone smarter than you. The gym had gone completely quiet. Everyone was watching now. Dean stepped closer to Michael. You think you're so clever? You think this is over? I think you need to be very careful about what you say next, Michael replied. Because unlike you, I don't make threats, I make promises. What's that supposed to mean? Michael smiled. It means that what I showed you today was just the beginning. See, I've been documenting everything. Your conversations, your movements, your little parties. I know things about all of you that would destroy your lives if they became public. You're bluffing, Malik said. Am I? Jake, would you like me to tell Sarah about the other women? The ones who weren't my wife? I have very detailed records. Jake's face went pale. And Malik, I have some interesting information about your business practices. Something about falsified property appraisals. I'm sure the state licensing board would be fascinated. Malik's hands started shaking. And Dean? Michael turned to face him directly. I know about your little side business, the private training sessions with married women, the ones you charge extra for specialized instruction. Dean's jaw tightened. You don't know what you're talking about. I know about Mrs. Patterson from the country club and Mrs. Rodriguez from the mayor's office, and at least 6 others. I have photos, Dean. Very compromising photos. The silence was deafening. So here's what's going to happen, Michael continued. You're going to stay away from my wife. You're going to stay away from me. And you're going to keep your mouth shut about everything that's happened. Because if you don't, I'll make sure everyone in this city knows exactly what kind of men you really are. You can't just, Dean started. I can and I will. You see, gentlemen, you made a fundamental error. You assumed I was weak because I'm quiet. You assumed I was stupid because I'm humble. You assumed I was powerless because I collect garbage for a living. Michael stepped closer to Dean. But you never bothered to really get to know me. You never asked about my background, my skills, my resources. You just saw what you wanted to see. A pathetic husband who would never fight back. What are you saying? Jake asked. I'm saying that I'm not the man you thought I was. I'm not the victim you wanted me to be. I'm something else entirely, and you've made the mistake of making me your enemy. Michael turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Dean? You might want to cancel your afternoon appointments. I have a feeling you're going to be busy explaining to some very angry husbands why their wives have been paying for your specialized instruction. As Michael walked toward the exit, Dean called out, "This isn't over." Michael stopped and turned. Back. "Yes, it is. You just don't realize it yet." Within 24 hours, Michael's promises began to come true. Jake's wife, Sarah, filed for divorce after receiving an anonymous package containing photos and documents detailing his numerous affairs. The evidence was so comprehensive that Jake's lawyer advised him to settle quickly and quietly. Malik's real estate license was suspended pending investigation after the state board received detailed reports about his fraudulent practices. His business collapsed overnight. Dean had it the worst. 7 angry husbands showed up at his gym after receiving evidence of his affairs with their wives. The confrontation was violent and public. By the end of the week, Dean had lost his lease, his clients, and his reputation. But Michael wasn't finished. 1 month later, Michael sent Celeste a single text. "We need to talk. Meet me at Cafe Luna at 2 p.m. today." Celeste arrived looking haggard and desperate. Her influencer career had imploded after the scandal surrounding her 3 lovers became public. Brands had dropped her, followers had abandoned her, and her income had dried up. "You did this," she said as soon as she sat down. "You destroyed them." "I didn't destroy anyone," Michael replied calmly. "I just revealed who they really were. The destruction was their own doing. You're a monster. I'm a husband who was betrayed by his wife and his friends. I'm a man who decided to fight back using the only weapons available to him, truth and intelligence." Celeste stared at him with a mixture of hatred and fear. "What do you want from me?" "I want you to understand something. You thought you were so clever, carrying on your affairs right under my nose. You thought I was too stupid and too weak to ever figure it out, but you were wrong. I never said you were stupid. No, you just said I was furniture. Always there, always silent, never really part of what was happening." Celeste flinched at her own words being thrown back at her. "Here's what's going to happen," Michael continued. "You're going to sign divorce papers. You're going to take your personal belongings and leave. You're going to disappear from my life completely." "What about the house? My half of the assets?" Michael smiled. "What assets?" "According to our tax returns, I'm a sanitation worker with a modest salary and a small 401k. The house is mortgaged to the hilt. There's nothing to split." "That's impossible. We have savings, investments. We have what I've allowed you to see." "Nothing more, nothing less." Celeste's face went white as the implications sank in. "You hid money from me. I protected myself from you. There's a difference. That's illegal." Asset concealment in a divorce is very difficult to prove when the assets were acquired before the marriage and kept in separate accounts that the other spouse never knew about. Michael's voice was matter of fact. "I've been very careful about documentation. You son of a bitch. I'm the son of a bitch who's giving you a choice. Sign the papers, take your things, and walk away. Or force me to make this public and messy. Because I promise you, Celeste, you don't want to go to war with me." Celeste sat in silence for a long moment. Finally, she spoke. "What happened to you? You used to be kind, gentle. I used to be naive. You cured me of that. I never meant for it to go this far. It was just, I felt trapped, unfulfilled. I needed something more. And now you have it. You're free to find all the fulfillment you want. Just not with my money or in my house." Celeste signed the divorce papers 3 days later. She moved out of the house and back in with her mother in another state. Her social media accounts went dark, and she effectively disappeared from the city where she'd built her brief career as an influencer. 6 months later, Michael stood in the kitchen of his house making coffee as the morning sun streamed through the windows. The silence was peaceful now, not oppressive. He'd kept the house. It was paid off, thanks to his hidden wealth, and he'd grown attached to it despite the painful memories. His phone buzzed with a text from Tamara. "Saw the news about Dean. Assault charges dropped, but he's leaving town. How are you holding up?" Michael typed back, "I'm fine. Thanks for everything." He'd maintained his job with the sanitation department, partly for the health insurance and pension, but mostly because he enjoyed the work. It kept him grounded and reminded him that honest work had its own dignity. His investments had continued to grow, and he'd quietly donated substantial amounts to various charities, veterans organizations mainly, and groups that helped people rebuild their lives after trauma. He wasn't dating anyone, though several women had expressed interest. He wasn't ready yet, maybe never would be. The capacity for trust had been damaged, possibly beyond repair, but he was content. He'd faced the worst betrayal imaginable and emerged stronger. He'd learned that he was capable of things he'd never imagined, both terrible and necessary things. The doorbell rang. Michael opened it to find a young woman in a delivery uniform holding a package. "Michael Harlan?" "That's me." She handed him a small box with no return address. Inside was a single photograph. Dean, Jake, and Malik at what appeared to be a bar, looking defeated and broken. On the back, someone had written, "They're all gone. Thought you'd want to know. A friend." Michael stared at the photo for a moment, then walked to the fireplace and tossed it into the flames. He watched it burn, remembering the night he'd discovered his wife's betrayal and the moment he had decided to fight back. He'd won. Not in the way that movies portrayed victory. There were no triumphant speeches or moment of vindication. Just the quiet satisfaction of knowing that actions had consequences, and that even the most invisible people could be the most dangerous when pushed too far. Michael finished his coffee, put on his work uniform, and headed out to start his day. There was garbage to collect, a city to keep clean, and a life to live. Behind him, the photograph finished burning, leaving nothing but ash and memory. As he drove through the quiet suburban streets, Michael allowed himself one small smile. He'd learned something important about himself during those dark months. He wasn't the man he'd thought he was. He was someone much more complicated, much more capable, and much more dangerous. It was a lesson he hoped he'd never have to use again. But if he did, he was ready.